Hello, my name is Brandon Jones, and this is my video presentation. I won't be able to discuss everything that I covered in my paper, but I at least wanted to talk a little bit about the things I enjoyed reading more about and learning. A question that I thought about for a while was, why, where did all this come from? Why are Native Americans treated so poorly in the past? And I wanted to kind of look into more about why we have a history of discrimination against Native Americans. I believe that whenever Christopher Columbus came over and discovered America, um, that really set the tone towards Native Americans, and it just progressively got worse and worse. And maybe not worse and worse, but it didn't get better from then on. And so, in my paper, I talk a little bit about that, and I talk about what we read from Howard Zinn's Chapter 1, Columbus, the Indians, and Human Progress, which I thought was a great chapter, a great read. I really got a lot out of that, and had a lot different perspective on the discovery of America and how all those events unfolded versus what we were taught, in grade school. Just completely off from what really happened. I really wish that Christopher Columbus and his crew enjoyed their time and actually befriended Indians, and had the dinner and they taught themselves or each other different skills. I really wish that would have happened. But unfortunately that didn't happen. And so I talk a little bit about that in my paper. And before I move on, I think I mentioned this before in my paper that when we covered this assignment over Howard Zinn's chapter, but I think if we would have adopted and stuck with more Native American values and morals and practices rather than the European values and practices that I think we kind of adapted towards, we'd probably have more respect for Native Americans, and there wouldn't have been as much lashing out and discrimination against Native Americans. I really respect, the family structures of Native Americans. Just from reading that article or that chapter, how the man joins the wife's family rather than the wife joining the man's family, which I think we picked up from the Europeans. Their whole ideas and values, I think, are more sound than what Europeans came over with. So I talk a little bit about that, and then another thing I really enjoyed learning more about and looking into is singing red face. My own definition of singing red face is when a non-Native American artist morphs and changes characteristics of themselves and their music to become Indian. It's a really weird phenomenon for people wanting to become a Native American when they're not. It'd be one thing if they were had the utmost respect and actually cared about every single thing they carried out with their music, and wanted to respect the Native Americans. But I think that's not the case for the majority of artists singing red face. Most aren't really researching, what Native Americans do in their music. So by singing racial slurs and producing inaccurate, music based off Native American music, it's pretty silly. I think that people should probably put more effort and research into something if they're wanting to become Native American. A prime example of this is the classic, the bold 1 and then soft 2, 3, 4 beats. I heard this a lot as a kid. In fact, I kind of forgot about it for a while, but I realized that after reading, this chapter, over chapter 6, that it's everywhere. The 1, 2, 3, 4 beats, it's everywhere, and it's not even. I mean, it's out of everything we talked about in class, in this class, with the northern and southern drum beats and honor beats. Not at all close to what an actual Native American drum beat should be, and so I kind of really pointed that out. And then another thing that I mentioned in the paper was the clip of the Peter Pan movie, What Made the Red Man Red. I loved this movie as a kid, and I obviously didn't recognize how off the directors and producers of this movie were when it came to this scene. But it's pretty bad. Having all the Indians sitting down, just like not even using mallets, which, I mean, I'm not an expert in Native American music, but after taking this class, very rarely do Native Americans beat a drum without a mallet, and so that's something that probably they could have easily fixed. But then also having the the peace pipe kind of misinterpreting the singing and dancing. I don't know, it's kind of sad to have all that meshed into that scene, and teaching the kids or putting images in kids' minds of what an Indian looks like when it's not at all close to what a Native American really is. So I really wanted to stress that in my paper, and I really cared a lot about singing Red Face and why it's not good. I mean, I don't know. It's silly. The last thing I wanted to talk about, so I don't go too far over on this video, is racial antipathy. It really hit me hard whenever we watched the documentary over Real Engine, and how Hollywood kind of created a false image of Native Americans. It kind of came in different phases. First, it was the savage Indian, how Indians were brutal and heartless Indians, and they just went off and killed innocent people. Also really unfortunate for Hollywood and other movie producers to do. That probably put a lot of bad images in people's minds, and had a really bad rep for Native Americans in general. And then the fact that they went as far as painting white men to a color skin tone in order to look more Indian is pretty funny and humorous. I don't know, it's definitely not an Indian, definitely not a Native American Indian. And how they weren't too concerned about the language. Most or older Western movies just played English dialogue backwards to make it sound like Native American, and then even when they did find a Native American, they just let him say whatever. They weren't too concerned about what Native Americans said, which I thought was also pretty funny. But this paper and this class really opened my eyes to racial antipathy, singing Red Face, culture misappropriation, cultural confusion. It's pretty sad. I mean, I'm glad that it's getting better. It's not as bad as it used to be among artists and movie producers. But to wrap all this up, after taking this class and after completing this paper, I have a lot more respect for Native Americans. Two of my best friends have at least 1/16 Native American blood, and so I know they're really involved and really appreciate being a Native American, and they get a lot of great benefits for scholarships for being a Native American. But yeah, I just want to wrap this up by saying thank you for teaching all these very valuable things about Native Americans. I really enjoyed your book. Very informative and really easy to read. That's in a good way not to talk bad on your book. It was really good. Everything made complete sense. It gave me a really better respect for Native Americans, and I'm really glad I took this class. So I'm going to wrap this up here. Hope you enjoyed this video presentation. I'm sorry if I kind of bounced all over the place, but I'm really appreciating everything that you did for this class. Have a great day. Thank you.